Ever wondered how to make Biga using the pizza app? In this video, I'll show you how to make a 30% Biga dough using just a hand mixer, no spiral mixer needed. Let's get started. Welcome back. Let's open the pizza app and see what the glossary says about Biga. Biga is a solid pre-ferment made with a flour-to-water ratio of 1 to 0.45, plus 1% fresh yeast. It's usually left to ferment for 24 hours at 18 degrees Celsius, 48 hours at 13 to 14 degrees Celsius, or even 36 hours at 4 degrees Celsius and 12 hours at 18 degrees Celsius. It's mainly used to give the dough more fragrance, better digestibility, and improved structure. But it needs strong flour, rated at least W350. So with that in mind, I asked ChatGPT to help fine-tune the recipe to match my schedule. And here's what we came up with. I'll mix the Biga in the morning, leave it at room temperature for 10 hours, then transfer it to the fridge for another 14. The next morning, it's ready to mix into the final dough. Once combined, I laminate the dough, let it rest for 20 minutes, then give it a fold. After about an hour of resting, I ball it up, and it's ready to bake 4 hours later. Now let's set this up in the pizza app. I activate the Biga option in the settings, then set it for 3 pizzas with 70% hydration, 2% olive oil, 3% salt, and a 5-hour final proof at 22 degrees Celsius with 30% Biga. For the Biga, I've already measured out the flour, water, and fresh yeast. I'm using a strong Manitoba flour here, which is perfect since Biga needs flour with at least 350 W strength. I dissolve the yeast in room temperature water, then pour in the flour. Pop the lid on and give it a good shake. You're aiming for a loosely structured, semi-dry dough. Scrape any dry flour down from the sides, and that's it. The Biga is ready. Put the lid on and let it rest at room temperature for 10 hours. Now it's time to make the main dough. I start by dissolving the yeast in cold water, then add the Biga. Since Biga is a semi-dry, clumpy pre-dough, it needs to be fully broken down first. Whisk it until you get a smooth, milky texture. Once it's smooth enough, I start incorporating the flour gradually. I also add the remaining water calculated by the app, in the form of ice, to help keep the dough temperature under control. While I'm adding the flour, here's a quick note. Traditionally, Biga didn't even contain yeast. It was a dry pre-ferment, around 45% hydration, meant to ferment slowly and boost flavor. The name actually comes from a Roman chariot. Today, pizza makers usually add a little yeast and use strong flour, with a W value over 300, to handle the long fermentation. Biga is especially useful if you want to make a higher hydration dough, over 70%, because it gives structure and strength without making the dough hard to handle. You get a light, airy crust with great aroma, and the dough stays manageable even with a simple hand mix. Once all the flour is incorporated and the ice has melted, I add the salt and the olive oil. Then I continue mixing just until the dough reaches around 23 to 24 degrees Celsius. That's the sweet spot for a steady room temperature proof. That's it for the mixing. Time to move it to the table. I'm scraping it onto a lightly oiled surface, shaping it into a ball and letting it rest for 20 minutes to relax. As you can see, the dough handled beautifully. Great oven spring, and the pizza turned out super soft and airy. This recipe does take a bit of planning and needs some adjustments depending on your room temperature and environment, but the results are definitely worth it. The texture isn't as crunchy as a traditional 62% direct dough, but it's incredibly soft and light. This video was actually requested by one of my viewers. So if you have something you'd like to see next, drop a comment below. Thanks for watching and see you in the next one.